Hello, my name's Dale Hawthorne. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, I hope you find this topic something interesting and helpful. And please take a look at um, my channel for other topics. If you're returning, well, I hope that you also find this topic that we go through to be helpful and to be informative, and that it's something that you may be able to pass on to someone else. The title I put is Escaping the Smother Mother, Maturing from Being Trapped as a Son Husband. And I think that really is more of a problem nowadays, although if you look back at literature, you do find that there are people like that in every age. I think if you go back into the Little Rascals, you'll find a couple of episodes that back in the 1930s especially, that were may have dealt with someone who had a smothering mother. But it may work also for the smothering, overdependent mother, overdependent upon a son, or maybe even escaping from a narcissistic father. I couldn't be sure, but there might be some things I say here which might help someone who needs to escape from an overbearing, domineering, narcissistic father that will not accept the maturation, the adulthood of his or her son or daughter. So, yeah, the mother, his or her mother and father, not saying that the father is a his or her. So that's not the. But the son husband is a phrase which has come up more lately, and I think that there have been chances, especially since the 1970s at least, that this type of enmeshment, these type of inversions of changing the um, child to the adult and the parent to the child in these situations, that this really has come out more. And I think the rise of single mothers has done this, especially since the 2000s. There have been real over idealization of single mothers, and some single mothers do a good job. Some do come into single motherhood by their not by their own choice, but that was really much more characteristic of women who were being abandoned by husbands, the hard cases back in the 1960s and 1970s. So there are a number of cases, I think, that we're going to find single mothers who really didn't have the ability to raise a son to be a man. Maybe cut the husband out of the place, even if it's a good husband, a good father. So we do find those stories coming about. You can look all over YouTube for them. So anyone that is going to say no, that isn't happening, look at the YouTube stories about all these things. So maturing from being trapped as a son husband is a real developmental and maturation challenge for many men, again, since the 1970s at least. And it's also something we can see also in black culture. We've heard some NBA stars who have been pointed to as son husbands, and there's an alternative thumbnail image for that, which I'll show you right now, right here, just to show in the black culture. I don't know. I had AI generate this. If this speaks to anyone, yeah, this may be what's happening in some parts of um, the black families in the USA, the alternative thumbnail. And I personally did preach part time in a predominantly African American church for a couple of years, and they, even though I'm single, not unmarried bachelor, they thought that I was living with my mother because apparently they had seen it was kind of a default that if you're unmarried bachelor son, you would live with your mother. So that may be a real problem. Um, so in the black church, especially black culture too. So there's also been an article which I'll put the link in the comments. Suzanne Binker, who um, did an article, America is awash in overmothered men. Underfathered, overmothered. And again, yeah, this is something which we hear people talk about over and over. It's something I've been hearing since at least the 1990s in different Christian programs dealing with the family and stuff like that. That the need for men who are stronger fathers in their lives to guide them. And certainly there's a need for pastors and counselors, anyone who deals with young men, to be aware of this, have some idea of how to deal with it. There's many times there are men who may have this feeling that something's been holding them back over the years, perhaps something to do with their family background. Maybe they've overcome a lot of it. And this isn't to shift blame, but to take the place of responsibility for one's life for God and men. Yeah, it's easy for us to point to the people. I do have some of my friends who I've grown up with who said they know men who are approaching 40 who are still living in their mother's basement doing the video game thing. So I don't doubt that that's a real phenomena. How widespread it is as far as percentages and numbers, I don't know. But certainly, I think there really is a place to speak to the type of things that I'll be talking about here. But again, I want to bring this back right now before we go into this whole thing, since it might get kind of long. Please click like and subscribe if you want to have more. I'll deal with other sorts of things, and really from an educational standpoint. This isn't really intended as a substitute for therapy, although someone who really has a lot of the things which I may be talking about, maybe going, I dealt with that, may find something that'll help them, may find some validation and some encouragement for their lives. But again, there may be more here, so more videos I have that will interest you. So please click like and subscribe. So in the church, yeah, we do honor father and mother. We don't make them into gods. They're people like us, men and women with feet of clay, people with good and bad. We need to deal with them with realism and forgiving. So in anything that I deal with here, I don't want to be misconstrued as saying that we do not honor our father and mother, but we take them realistically. What they did good in our lives, we understand that. We thank God for that. We thank them for that. We praise God for that. And they're living here in a fallen world. There are going to be mothers and fathers who have habits and ideas and actions, words that are less than Christ-like, to say the least. Sometimes quite brutal and abusive. So just being realistic enables people to understand how to deal with those things, how to follow Jesus more closely. And yeah, this is a Christian channel for anyone who's to come on who may be wanting to look at the topic. Yeah, I'm going to deal with that. I'm not here to shove religion down your throat. This is a topic which is a lot here which could help someone who may not be attending church, being a Christ follower, but there may be things here which could help. But if you like Jordan Peterson, you really should be turning this away, because I'm dealing with because he'll be dealing with these things from a much more Christian standpoint, or much more biblical references than I do. So yeah, we do know, I mentioned it before, literature, the devouring mother is an archetype from Carl Gustav Jung and Carl Gustav Jung, and Jordan Peterson makes use of that. I may deal with that more in the future, especially if I haven't read his book on archetypes yet, so eventually I may bring that in more. A cultural point is someone in the culture you want to see in TV shows. Marie from Everybody Loves Raymond. Yeah, and there were times that my mother passed away at 98 a couple of years ago, and she herself, sometimes she would show these behaviors, and sometimes we would say, our son, okay, Marie, things like that. So there'll be, and even back as far as Solomon. Solomon in Proverbs 14:1 talked about the foolish woman who with her own hands tears down her house. And these are the habits, the learning habits, the ideas which people learn over the time, which make them a fool in the biblical sense, which are foolish because they tear down the son, they tear down the family. Sometimes they really put the family in a place where, instead of flourishing, in a case of dysfunctionality. So I think a lot of these habits will be, although I will use the term narcissist from time to time, I think, we'll find that there will be people who are not a clinically diagnosed narcissist by a professional psychiatrist who show a lot of behavior patterns that are the same. They may not have the whole inner life, the whole inner direction of the clinically diagnosed narcissist, but maybe they learn these things from a clinically diagnosed narcissist, or maybe um, they had a book that came across their lives, such as a way to be successful, a way to get what you want out of your life. And they followed that. A lot of these habits, which you find in some of these success and seduction books, are those of narcissism and psychopathy. Jordan Peterson did mention that at one point. So, and human beings often will act out what's on the inside because we naturally have a selfish core, a selfish default behaviors. Christians call that original sin, that sin has marked up our nature, and that we're not naturally good people, but will naturally tend to be evil and ignorant and do wicked things. And even in the church, those are the people that people point to that follow. They're hypocrites. Well, yeah, a lot of times they may simply be people who have never really come to saving faith, or maybe they're struggling with things, or maybe no one has really taken them aside to deal with them in a scriptural, godly way to help them correct these behaviors. And it's not coming in as overbearing, but there are scriptural guidelines on how to deal with someone with a spirit of gentleness on these things. So many Christians really haven't dealt with their own base selfishness. Many people in our culture never outgrow the selfish behaviors of adolescence. You just look at so many adults. I would say many in our in our culture never really outgrow the selfish behaviors they had in adolescence. Maybe they have some more functional ways that they've incorporated into their life and their behavior, and maybe uh, it may, they've discovered ways of covering them, but a lot of people really are in their lives still that person they were back in, say, 12 to 15 years old. They should really have a lot of the same attitudes and ideas. So, and maybe when people come into these things, codependence, personality disorders, what they call the co-narcissist is the codependent now. What I call the little person's messiah complex, again, for a Christian, that goes back to original sin, for we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. And we're all sold to sin, as we see in the book of Romans. But those, the most extreme cases, most habitual cases, codependence, personality disorders, and most of those really are developmental problems, developmental complexes, and I don't want to call them disabilities. I did have the correct word here a moment. Challenge for development and maturation, developmental dysfunctional complex, maybe let's call it that. But hopefully, some things I see in some of the parts of the culture, our society really went into the narcissistic behaviors, especially since the me generation, baby boomer, I'm one of them, that seems to have come out of the human potential movement back in California in the 1960s, that we're going to be the me generation. Yeah, remember that? And Christopher Lasch came up with a book called the Culture of Narcissism back in the 1970s. And I gave away my copy of that long ago. I'm eventually going to be getting that back, seeing how that, but um, I hope that our culture is starting to get sick at least a little bit. I don't think we'll ever overcome that selfish core, selfish default behavior, original sin, apart from a strong and cleansing and purifying conversion to Jesus Christ. And even then, we'll, even the strongest Christians still have difficult behaviors, still fall prey to sin. It doesn't. We never say that Jesus makes us absolutely perfect, but if our conversion, our saving faith is genuine, we should be better than they were 2 or 3 years ago at least. So, um, we're seeing some light being shown on these behaviors lately, and a lot of times it seems to come out with these success instruction books and courses which come up, which train people in sheer cynical manipulation of others to get what they want. And I think that we really should be seeing, we did see a self-help binge in the church with the um, with the attractive church, the seeker-sensitive church back in um, since the 90s at least. Some people trace that back to the 80s and 70s. But Christians need to be sanctified out of that base selfishness to Christ-like love, and that's where Christians get themselves into problems, where they've got these old habits and they get stuck in them, they get stubborn in them, and they're not sanctified out of their base selfishness to a life of Christ-like love. And we need to bring back Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. The theologians have had a field day over the years with verses 5 through 11 in Philippians 2, but the whole passage, 1 through 11, is what we're to live out the attitude that was in Jesus Christ. So, getting back to the Smother Mother, why is a motivation for a Smother Mother? Well, I think sometimes it's self-directed anger that comes out, leaks out, and makes the child the scapegoat for their own disappointments, their own actions, bad decisions, irresponsibility. If a mother is disappointed with the way her life has gone, maybe the husband will pay the price for her insecurity, mistakes, and disappointments, regrets, and personal deficits, so on. Maybe she doesn't want you to find out the more functional alternatives in your own life to be more masculine, be more self-directed, to be more productive, because if you learn the functional alternatives to the way that she did things, she may want you to continue on with the bad ideas, same bad ideas which led to her bad decisions. So basically, the maturation challenge, the developmental challenge to get out of that is to unlearn perhaps the same bad ideas, the same bad actions, the same bad habits which led to her bad decisions and her own disappointments and so on, to live them out. And there's something I was going to throw in here, which I'd like you to consider if you're in this place of being a son husband or someone who sees that you need to escape a smothered mother, narcissistic mother or father, so on. Have you been treated like someone else's psychology experiments? Think about it. You can say no, that's fine. But if you really do think about it, you need to get away and push back as hard and fast as you can. I've seen the tendency of some college educated male and female narcissists over the years, if they have some contact with the behavioral sciences, to treat others, especially those who they see as gullible, weak, and vulnerable, as their guinea pigs. Not just their flying monkeys, but their guinea pigs for trying to play psychological experiments. They'll do one thing with one child and then something else with another and try to see what the result will be or something like that. Have been some episodes of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon and Amy did this with their friends, which um, that definitely did put a strain on the friendship in the show. I think it would result in real life with the loss of the friendship, with distancing, with alienation from another person. But considering that, if you're, I just throw that out there for you to consider as we go on and continue. So there is more here. So some of the practices of the Smother Mother: spying. They can be extraordinarily intrusive, looking through your personal knowledge, belongings. If you have a diary or a journal, reading that when you're not around. They may monitor your habits coming and going so they can get this access to your personal belongings. They may sabotage you with others, with saying demeaning things behind the back of your back, exaggerating your immaturity. And yeah, I've seen people in their 90s who have pockets of immaturity. I don't think we ever get entirely 100% mature in this life, but I think that we do mature in extraordinary ways to become more functional, productive, and particularly if you're a Christian, to become more like Jesus. The practices of the smothering mother also continue coddling and infantilizing. That's a big one. That's the coddling of the American mind, Jonathan Haidt and what do they call him? Greg Easterbrook, Greg Lukianoff. Yeah, is the correct name there. So you're treated like you're a perpetual child, and they're over you as a parent always, no matter what your age. And you may even hear that back from them. And you may need to push back and say, "No, I'm not a child. I was a child. You are my parent and the child as far as having given birth to me and raised me, but I'm not a child, and I will not be treated like a child." So they may try to keep you from giving up childish things, from having more mature and adult experiences, and sometimes even such as dating and marriage, because they want to keep you away from for themselves, to take up the slack in their lives, their own insecurity, their own deficits, and so on. And they may even the food may even become an issue. So refuse as strongly as you need to do if you're having weight problems you're seeking. You may need to give up the fattening foods, pre-processed and sugary foods, sweets you don't want to eat, and they may try to sabotage going out into athletics and exercise. Oh yeah, I'm going there. Like Kevin James Fabulous says in so many of his videos. Oh yeah, I'm going there. They may say there's too much effort and may fear that you're getting injured, but exaggerating that there is some discomfort in getting fit. And for the first few weeks, you may have some sore muscles. So what? And from time to time, you may be injured. So what? It's a lot better to be fit, to be strong, to have your physical body able to take up the challenges of life than not. So, and the smother mother, also the narcissistic parent, good at hiding what's happening, what's really happening in the family, from families and friends, and maybe blaming in some way the children that they received, that they're damaged goods in some way. So that may happen, and they may not give you appropriate help or encouragement to foster and help you mature in your own insight, strength, and independence. They withhold information from you. They withhold, filter things that maliciously filter things which are said, and small things, minor mistakes, which could be genuine learning experiences. Even big mistakes can be genuine learning experiences in maybe earlier phases, trying to pursue your own long-term goals and projects, but they catastrophize small things, bumps along the wayside. It being huge things, which means that you're doing it all wrong, etc., etc., etc. So, the last two are the more narcissistic things. Rage, maybe some ways, rage and tantrums, the way they try to rule others by fits of rage. There's an episode of Hoarders which I saw a couple of years ago, where there was a hoarding mother who apparently had a very detrimental effect on her husband. Maybe even to some extent, the episode showed that she may have played a part in his death by illness, and she had fits of rage would rule her family, and her daughters would even call them BB fits. They had a name for the fits in the family, which she would show to try to control daughters. They were apparently trying to present herself as out of control and needing help, but not really. They appear to be staged and so on, faked, and tantrums that control others to keep the reins in, keep others in, hoover others in to her own insecurity, dysfunction, and deficits. And manipulation too, covert and overt interference in other people's lives, sometimes quite aggressively, sometimes quite subtly, sometimes quite dishonestly. So those are the two things: rage and manipulation, as far as definite narcissistic practices and habits. So what you need, giving you kind of the bad news so far, what you need in your life is adulthood, need for independence and strength. Yeah, there's been a number of ways which feminism talked about women needing to be strong and independent women, and that's what the women in the 1970s needed to escape a cheating, abusive husband. Their um, to be able to go out on their own away from that situation when those did happen. But unfortunately, they got applied from their pain to all women, but a man needs that at least as much. Men need to be strong and independent, to be men, to be able to earn a living, to be able to woo a wife, to be able to be married, to be a father to children. Yeah, they need to learn, be strong and independent, and that's necessary to learn proper work habits. That's something else you'll need. Learn proper work habits. Diligence, diligence, diligence. You look at Proverbs. You see Solomon talk about diligence a lot, and you need to have your own goals, your own desires in life. Take back ownership of your life. Take back your own goals and desires. Don't live your life solely for your mother. You may need to incorporate things simply. Some cases, if it isn't severe, if you don't have to go no contact to be able to help judiciously, but don't be hoovered into being that husband to fulfill someone else's script for your life. Take the script back. Take the goals back. Take the habits back. And you may need to consider therapy too. Um, Again, there may be people who've been through this, and if they're shaking their heads, yeah, I went through that, so you may need to work on therapy yourself. Talk therapy where it's just talk. You may need to avoid that. I would look for some sort of cognitive-based therapy, something with definite action steps. Not just talking about, not just self-analysis, but taking definite action steps to improve your life. And before you get into even if you get into therapy, whatever you do, at least journal these things. Pretty much any therapy will try to get you to do some kind of journaling. So at least take it a journaling. Just put what you want in there. Yeah, the Smother Mother may try to get into that. Robert on Everybody Loves Raymond had a trick for that. He had two sets of books. He had a journal which he left for his mother, and another private one which he kept for himself, which he was honest about himself. Now, I I don't know that I do that, but you do need to be careful that whatever you put there is private to yourself, and the others don't get a hold of that. Don't talk to anyone who's not a therapist without and if you do get a therapist, there has to be definite agreement of confidentiality, HIPAA laws, ethics, so on. Do say that the therapist has to be confidential about everything you say to them, and you have to give permission for anything to go out, explicit permission, explicit written permission, perhaps. Anyone that does that, get away. Anyone that won't give you that type of confidentiality, get away. Fire your therapist if they break confidentiality. And I would advise being very careful. Probably not starting to share these things in small groups in churches. I've found often enough that there many times a small group has at least one gossip, and the back door to the rumor mill is often wide open in such groups, and they may go off and talk even to pastors. They may try to give the appearance that they're being caring and responsible like that, but the back door to the rumor mill often comes through the gossip in such groups. So, again, action steps right now. Plan your independence. You need independence and strength. You need to plan your independence and assess where you are right now as far as your need and level of independence. Look at whatever failures and mistakes you've already made. You don't have to right now at this moment find every single one, but where you come across, you have the insight that you have made a mistake. Go on. Own your mistakes, own your failures, look at the alternatives, learn what you need to do better, pick yourself up and go on, and make your own goals, own your own life, strike out on your own, get whatever sort of independence you can have, exercise your own initiative as much as possible. And with the Smother Mother, you may need to go put up some really strong boundaries at some point. So, some may realize that they haven't been doing right by you at this point, but you may need to go no contact or low contact for a while. And you definitely do need to be careful with what you would say to someone who has these tendencies. Sometimes, and it's possible that if they're looking for material, they may even twist the most innocuous things to try to get themselves the stories on how great they are, how infantile you are, and how much you need them, and you should be under their thumb. So make your own major decisions, and only when safe and necessary do you really inform the mother of major decisions. And there is a scriptural case back in the book of Genesis. Jacob needed to get away from his mother Rachel to become the man you see him at the end of Genesis. So you can take a look at that if you're a believer and you take the Bible as the authority of your life. Do take a look at Jacob as your example, getting away from Rebecca, being called to account for his manipulative ways, being someone who is called to faith, to trust in God, and someone who God did really bless. And it's when he became renamed Israel. Yeah, we have the 12 tribes of Israel coming from his sons. So remember that if you're an adult, honoring your father and mother doesn't mean that they have the same authority as they had when you were a child. And when you're on your own especially, you are responsible to follow the wisdom of God, and you you may have to stand up to them and say, hey, you can't boss me around like that anymore. I'm not your child living at home. You may have to stand up to them. Stand up strong, stand up effectively, but stand up to them if they do try to boss you around like that. Some mothers will try to do that. And Scripture assumes that we will have respect for responsible, respectable mothers and fathers, and also talks about a greater responsibility of fathers to guide especially sons away from the early childhood to adulthood. And again, that's Proverbs, which is all about that. And divorce and aggressive child ownership of a son may take that away, where even in an intact marriage, where a mother may aggressively try to keep the father away, they may try to keep the father away from helping the child to grow to adulthood. And some fathers may just simply give up and not care at some point. So, I would hope that if anyone knows anyone like that, that they would pray for that father to have the strength to stand up, to be the father in every way which God wants him to be. So, there's some questions I've got. I said it's going to be kind of long. There's some questions and preparation plans for independence. First of all, who are you? Not your name. You don't need to tell me your name. I'm not asking you this, but define yourself. Who are you? What do you want? Define your goals. You need your meta goal in your life needs to be strong and independent enough to be able to live on your own, to be able to be married, to be able to work at a job, to prosper at a job, and to be able to raise a family. Looking for a life of your own. Spouse, family, church, job and career, friends, and home. The type of goals you should look for there. There are a number of books on goal setting. Zig Ziglar had a good presentation on it. You might be able to find that online. Brian Tracy has books on goals and so on. These are kind of older books, but consider that. How much privacy do you have? How much privacy do you have to be able to think and plan for yourself? Again, you may need to find some way to keep, if you're writing down your plans, putting them on your phone or whatever, to be able to keep them from prying eyes, people who will try to read, intrude, and try to sabotage those. So what can you do now? Define your skills. What sort of skills do you have now? How can you form a vocation, a career, a job, some sort of money-making way so you can support yourself financially? It doesn't necessarily have to be a job. You can be an entrepreneur in some way, which some sort of web entrepreneur, as long as it gives you sufficient finances to live on your own and be able eventually to be able to support a family or marriage, so on. What sort of resources do you have? What sort of education do you have? Do you have science, technology, engineering, um, mathematics degree? Do you have humanities degree? Uh, Back when I got my classes degree, it was considered an elite degree as far as humanities degree. That's not the case nowadays. So you may need to get some sort of technical or otherwise business degrees, uh, business experience, education. What kind of friends do you have? Who will support you? What sort of finances do you have already? Do you have any money in the bank? Um, so this is going to be some of the things that a counselor, these questions now. What sort of issues did your mother have? Has there been any sort of mental illness diagnosis on her part? Is she on any sort of medication, such as for like depression and anxiety? Does she have anywhere close to normal mental health? Is there Has she been diagnosed with any type of personality disorders? Is she a product of intergenerational divorce or maybe her own smother mother? Is it perhaps possible that she was an older daughter in a family who was forced into being an assistant mother and maybe even treated, if the mother was single, as romantic competition? Women are talking about that, how they're being assistant mothers and treated as romantic competition for the same men by their mothers. And it's possible that mentally ill mothers may project their mental illness on the children, as Misery Loves Company may be involved in an ongoing family cover drama, ongoing family cult, which covers over these things. Maybe therapy is needed for her. Has she refused therapy? And maybe, I mentioned that um, maybe you need to consider therapy for yourself to be able to deal with the type of things that you come from. What role did you play in the family? Again, a therapist will get into things like this. Were you the scapegoat? Were you the scapegoat of the family? Were you her scapegoat? Were you? Has she been trying to treat you as an unwilling surrogate spouse and bag of resources that she can loot when she thought she needed more than she had? Is she trying to loot your life to make up for her own deficits? And what type of stories does a mother share about you? Again, you may need to think about these, and a therapist may ask what you know about these things. You may not even know what's being shared about you behind your back. And it may be shared privately in a superior, gloating fashion. And does your mother publicly disrespect you before family and friends? It's possible that she may be emasculating you um, figuratively for family and friends to make her look better than she really is. And what role does your father play in your life right now? And if your parents are together, your father, there may be role reversal there. Maybe your mother has enlisted your father as a soldier in her crusades and guerrilla wars, maybe against the people in her life who have disappointed her, her own mother, siblings, brothers and sisters, perceived enemies, maybe even your brothers and sisters if they've disappointed her in some way. If your parents are divorced, not living together, your father may be a target for continued rage. You may need to try to form an independent relationship with your father, maybe be able to see beyond um, some of the stories that she's told if she's demonizing him. There is real abuse, there is real cheating, but you may need to be able to uh, try to see if you can get some sort of independent relationship with father, be able to evaluate whether the depth of truth of those stories, whether he perhaps has changed, or um, you're just simply not going to be a target of those types of things. Whatever your dreams, your goals are, develop them, strongly protect them, and if there are those who treat you determinedly, as a weak person, as a vulnerable person, maybe they saw you some sort of vulnerabilities, people who try to step in and interfere, other narcissists outside the family, and they're flying monkeys. People who try to step in, interfere, try to control you, maybe they see you as having problems and vulnerabilities, and they try to take credit for solving your problems and vulnerabilities without any type of genuine help. Oh, yeah. I've seen even pastors try to make up grandiose stories of how strong and great they are, how they've helped this person, how we can help this other person is. So they may seek appropriate guidance where you need, though. Develop your strengths. Maybe others have tried to keep you weak and beaten down. Strongly protect your own goals and dreams. And some possible action steps here, maybe seek some tests, some assessments, some certifications of your existing knowledge, something fairly objective that you can say, this is where I am. You said I am this. You said I'm stupid. Well, guess what? I'm a Mensa member. I'm a member of the High IQ Society. Now, what does that make you? Someone who is down someone with a real eye, for their self-serving lie. Maybe you need to seek training and education, even to perhaps some sort of military or trade school. Maybe not the formal military, maybe National Guard. There may be state guards, state military, trade school. There's a Ohio Military Reserve here in my state of Ohio, and they tried to recruit me for that not long ago. I think that one of the men tried to speak to me. I looked, physically fit at the time, and I was working toward one. And he did mention that a lot of people really did find that really did help them to be able to further their education, their skills, and their experience. And maybe there's something you could have called an ultra learning project. Scott Young did a book called Ultra Learning, which I'm going to put the link in the description. Maybe it's a way to quickly develop an understanding, a deep understanding and capability in certain areas. So that may help you if you got the time and ability to bring on an ultra learning project in your life. So this is going to be really long. I just hope that you can be able to pause and be able to go through this. But yeah, seek time and finances. You may need to face a mother giving you a hard time about any plans for your future which don't center around her and her plans for herself, and maybe her plans and stories which she's already shared with others behind your back and enlisted them to try to keep you for herself. Her plans for you come in second, even if she tries to play the martyr to represent herself as a long-serving sacrificial mother, and she may even try to exaggerate her normal parental responsibilities as extreme sacrifices. I changed your diapers. That's normal parental responsibility. That's not an extreme sacrifice. And every purported sacrifice often may be something that has been stolen from the sphere of your responsibility, your capability, your development needs, so that your own need to develop into manhood, adulthood, and vocation has been sabotaged. And she may try to deflect from her own response, sabotaging these areas through drama, tears, fabricated stories, so on. But seek the time and finances to do what you need to do. And keep away from porn, and also the aromatic herb that a lot of people smoke. Keeping this clean for YouTube. The spicy pictures and stories may even be tolerated in your life as your mother sees them as a way of keeping you from a real relationship with a real woman who would be a rival for your affection and resources, and may see that the aromatic herb which you smoke normally as a way of medicating you to keep you there, keep you passive. But even if you have difficulties that come up in your life, be careful about moving back in with a smother mother. Smother mothers can be quite treacherous. They may make promises, but that will say that they've changed, but then the minute they come back, that you give them a chance, they go back into smothering and vandalizing, interfering, because those are ways which are familiar to them. They may try to hoover you back so that they can justify the stories they've told to others about you being weak and herself as having such great wisdom, strength, greater than yours, necessary to your survival. Maybe even those kind of cover stories for the mistreatment which is not being faced. You'll need strong boundaries. You'll need to do what you can do as an adult to support your own household, yourself financially, chores in the house, in your own household, and continue to express your plan to get back your own independence if you're still um, living at home. You may need to contribute and supply some chores if you're living at home, but let them know that you do plan to be independent and they're going to need to work out what they do in the case of your independence. And the more capable, agreeable, and compliant you are, that will just be seen as a vulnerability to try to keep on sabotaging. Subjugation and control to try to control and exploit your capabilities. People get really habituated and addicted to that, and mothers and fathers really do need to consider and plan what they will do when their children will grow to adulthood so that they can maintain proper independence. In case, there may be cases of real hardship where parents and you may sons need to move back home, or mothers need to move in with their children, but normal situation which you envision should really be proper independence. And a counselor may also talk to you about your own emotionality, laziness. Those are real byproducts of being coddled and vandalized. And maybe consider your own history. How have you reacted emotionally to things where you should have been reacting more reasonably? How have you treated things as catastrophes when they've been minor bumps in the road? They may help you back to a more realistic understanding of your own capabilities and what you can endure. Maybe they will expose your own previous lack of goals, choice, and drive. And evaluate also your own reputation. Have others treated you as a weak man and seen you as exploitable as a weak man? Takers, exploiters love to keep that alive and keep digging up your own past. And if there are people in your life like that who aren't part, whether in your family or not, you may need to put some distance. You may need to push back to the point of no contact. And yeah, we're all going to have normal difficulties in life. But I don't think our normal difficulties in life under most situations should mean constant dependence, constantly trying to sabotage someone else's independence. And you need to deal with the hidden agenda of a smothering mother who tries to keep a son, husband in mothballs, someone, or in stasis, in Star Trek terms, for her perceived needs in the future, and sabotaging your real needs right now. Again, finances can be a real place of where people try to lasso one another back in. So it may be a bribe to continue dependence or hoovering back into dependence again. Again, financial independence and responsibility give you the place to stand and enforce a line of public respect, personal and social independence, and responsibility long term. These are some of the ways back. Churches need to be aware of this too. I just wanted to hear some of my general advice, but I'm going to be talking right now a little bit about churches and the Christians right now. And there'll be two books which you'll also see in the comments, which I'll let you know about those right now. But and this is advice for pastors for churches. Churches need to talk about the ministry of prayer and ministry for older women, guiding younger women. Titus 2, that's explicitly mentioned. And there's nowhere in scriptures you can find an inversion of older women exploiting sons and younger men. As a matter of fact, you will find in 1 Timothy that, for an older widow above 60, like that, and so on, that the family should contribute to them, but the onus is really put on the daughters right there. And churches may need to talk about, again, going back to Everybody Loves Raymond. Raymond at Robert's wedding talked about the need for Marie to go into a going out of business sale for making her sons her business. For women who make their sons their business beyond what the son, the times when the son should be an independent adulthood, maybe talk about, hey, we need to have a going out of business sale. So the last thing, if you're a Christian, if you're a man especially who's following Jesus and trying to get out of this, God the Father wants to be your perfect Father. He is already your perfect Father. The Apostle Paul talked to him about bowing the knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven on earth is named. That's Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 through 15. He is the perfect Father. He wants to be your perfect Father. Take up every problem for now and for eternity which has come from your parents. And in the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul also does talk about, right here, highlighted verses, for all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. And again, that's men and women, children. There is no sex specific to that sex specificity to that verse. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit Himself bears witness with our spirit, we are the children of God. You already have the perfect Father who wants to take up and fix every problem in your life, every sin, every failure, for now to make you as much like the perfect Son, Jesus, and also for eternity, which has come from your earthly parents. So I encourage you, cultivate that relationship with the perfect Father. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope I've gone on a length here. I hope I'm going to provide some extra references too. So again, this is educational primarily. I think there are going to be some of you who may actually be fairly far along on this journey. You go, I faced that, I faced that. And thank you for telling me that. I went down that path. I got a lot of flack for it, but hearing from you right now, I think that's the right way which I went. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And may you find the perfect Father in your own life to help you out of that, to be able to stand before Him blameless in Christ likeness for eternity, and to be able to show forth His power, His glory in your life. Thank you again.